together and welcome. Have you seen the minutes? Your approval for the minutes?
So move.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Public comment. Was there anyone that? No. Okay. Business, budget amendment from JPD of $150,000.
Yeah, this request comes from the police department. This is for, I'm trying to see exactly what the software is. I can find that.
Dispatch.
Yeah, it's some piece of software technology. And actually, this was a little bit of an oversight in last year's budget process. I guess it happened in the public. Anybody was there. There was discussion about this particular expense line item, and some confusion resulted about where they were year to date at the time we were looking at it versus what their projected expense was going to be for the year. So the original budget was short $150,000, and this will rectify that problem.
So altogether, it's $400.
Right, exactly.
Is this that dispatch system where they were gonna be able to,
No, this is normally their overall professional services for some software they have. So kind of what happens in the budget process, they present their budget, and I look at before we present to the budget committee or the council. I go through the capital and operating budget, and we had some annualized numbers, and there was a payment that wasn't made yet, and so the annualization went out less than before, so I just slashed it off. And in the second reading, we talked about it, and we didn't add that number back in, so.
Any concerns?
No, it was just an oversight on our end of putting it in there is what it was. Like I said, we annualized it out, slashed it off, and they told us about it, and we be able to put it back in there.
I make a motion to approve it?
Second.
Any discussion or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we have the federal equitable sharing expense, $40,000.
Our city, and I'm sure others, participate in an agreement with the federal government, like the FBI, ATF, I don't know, other.
Yeah, all those.
When those federal agencies may use our local resources for something, I guess the
The Marshal Service.
Marshal Service, yeah. When they're working on a case here locally and they need to use some of our resources, we are reimbursed for that. And it accumulates in a revenue account, and the police department is authorized under certain guidelines on how to use that money periodically throughout the year. And then what's left over at the end of the year is put into a reserve account, right? So what they're asking for now is for $40,000 of this reserve account to go toward funding. I think it has something to do with new ammunition. I'm not sure. It's some kind of approved expense under how they can use this particular money, but that's what this is. So really, it'll be increasing the police department's expense budget by $40,000, and it's coming from funds that we already have. It's kind of like fund balance, but it's a reserve account.
It's training ammunition,
Yeah, training, that's right.
a new issue firearm, recruitment.
Right.
Move we approve.
Second, okay. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry, before you move forward, actually, this morning earlier, it's just kind of FYI, we had a couple of other budget amendments, proposed budget amendments requested like this morning. We didn't really have time to get them on the agenda, or the budget amendment prepared. The first one is a request for $16,000, and this would come from fund balance, and the purpose of this is related to the public safety complex professional services that are ongoing now. And I'm not sure exactly where they are in that whole process, but they've determined that there's a need to go ahead and complete a survey now because I think of some utility lines or.
Is they're going
Some-
through, it
yeah.
is obviously an older part of town, and so as they're going through and looking at, Yeah, you got you.
So I was talking to the architect for this morning that's doing the master plan for the new public safety complex. And usually the survey is in phase 2 of it, but due to the location, there's a lot of old utility poles. And so this cost will do the survey for the area so that when we master plan it, we'll know exactly what to put in.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any other further comment?
I have a question. So the $16,000 was already originally included in the budget. We're just moving it up in terms of timing?
No, actually, what was approved originally, I think was $250,000, if I remember correctly, for like professional services related to the potential public safety complex, and so they've gotten into that now. And apparently, as they're trying to look at the site location, they've determined that there's utility issues, and they need to go ahead and complete the survey now.
Yeah, this will be more done in
Before that.
construction phase as opposed to planning phase, so, but because there's so many different utility poles and lines, they want to do this in the planning phase as opposed to construction phase, so they know where to put the buildings at in the
Yeah.
planning phase.
So that they don't damage what's there.
Or they don't put a building there in the planning phase and then start construction, wait a second.
Yeah.
Gotta go back and redraw everything again.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes.
Any further questions? Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad, go ahead.
Motion passes.
Okay. There was one other kind of last minute request that surfaced this morning. The fire alarm control panel at the NED is no longer working. So obviously that's, that needs to be replaced as soon as possible. And this way, it's for $15,889. And so this is actually going to be a reallocation. So Parks and Rec administration budget, we're gonna transfer $15,889 from their budget to the NED budget to replace this. This would not be an increase in the total budget.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Just so y'all know, we're working with the fire department, so if there's any events going on there, they're still protected. They just, until that fire alarm is repaired.
Do they have an idea of how long it'll take?
I think it just, getting the money reallocated and the part's ready, so a matter of days after the money's reallocated. So we have protocols in place, so with the fire station right there, they can either pull up near and kind of be on standby just in case.
Do we have something similar at the Civic Center?
Yeah, several years ago.
Okay.
What causes it to stop working? Is it a maintenance issue or just they play out like everything
out,
kind of has
yeah.
its time?
Mayor, Bobby, anything further?
Not on budget.
Revenue update?
Sure. So you have a couple of handouts, looks like this, property tax. So, no significant changes in the trends on the city's revenues. We can talk about the property tax one first if you want to. It looks like this. So if you drop down to the last line there, you can see through February the 9th of this year, we've collected $33,735,000 in property taxes. Through the same, or February 10th last year, we were at $33,293,000. So that trend of $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, that's pretty consistent with how it's been in years past. So looking good on kind of as expected, I guess, in terms of property tax.
New construction?
It's a whole lot of things, right, yeah. There's new parcels, appraisals go up, different things like that. And, we have historically about a 97+% collection rate, so that seems to be holding true, again this year.
Is there any projection about an increase in property taxes collected because of Blue Oval? Or has there not been any predictions related to that yet?
That'll be on reappraisal. I mean, you look at the parcels that come in, the amount of homes that need to be built, that'll be what'll drive the property tax, revenue. You know, the reappraisal will happen, I think the county commission voted 2 years ago, doing every 5 years as
Right.
opposed to 4 years. And so, that'll be, in 3 years, so that'll be another reappraisal, so that'll drive what the rate is as opposed to, the revenue. So, that gets into what we, you know, the total bucket that we can take in that year based on our property tax rate, certified rate. Depending on how fast they can put houses up and apartments up and hotels up.
Okay.
It's a good thing.
Yes.
I mean, there's some growth in the appraised values year over year, every year. But like if you look at the top of this report, you can see the 2022 taxes, the appraised value was 35.5 million, and 2023 is 36.4 million. So there's been some growth.
This may not really be where to ask this, but do the appraisals that we see from like private appraisals, and like my business, do they affect how the city sees the appraisals? So if we're pushing prices, like a couple months ago, we were at 120, 130 a square foot. Right now, we're at 159 a square foot. That's not really affecting any revenue that the city brings in.
That affects the tax appraisal.
Yeah.
Aren't the tax appraisals lower than what you would?
Yeah, tax appraisal done by the assessor property for the county.
Okay. We'll look at this report now, kind of non-property tax revenue, kind of some of the material ones that we look at each month. And this is pretty consistent with how we've trended so far this year. Tax equivalent payments in the first column, just as a reminder, last year in FY '23, pilot amounts due under the pilot program were included in this tax equivalent number. This year in FY '24, they're actually in the property tax number. That's just a change we've made. So that's the reason we're lagging a little bit compared to last year. I would point out, though, that if you look at the months of beginning in December and continuing in January, the FY '24 numbers are higher than those same months the prior year. The way JEA, the program that they have to compute their tax equivalent payment, it's a good program, good calculation, but they changed their estimates effective in effective in November of each year, right? They kind of update their estimates. And so I would expect the rest of the year that the JEA equivalent will exceed those same months in the prior year. On the local sales tax, this is consistent with where we were last month. We're trailing the prior year by about 1%. But some of you may remember, we budgeted this year actually for a 1.8% decrease in local sales tax collections. So although we're trailing the prior year a little bit in terms of actual, that's still slightly better than what we budgeted for. If you want to skip over to the last column, you can see the state sales tax, consistent with where it was last month. It's actually running ahead of the prior year by about 1%. And just as with the local sales tax, we actually budgeted a 1.8% decrease on state sales tax collections as well. So this is running above budget as well. Hotel motel tax, a lot of variables go into that. It's been tracking ahead, of the prior year. I don't know, maybe the weather, I'm not sure what all impacted this, but we're running slightly behind the prior year at this point, but that will very likely correct itself kind of moving forward. So I would just say that at this point, revenues, kind of the material dollars in our revenue budget look good compared to budget, kind of right where we expected to be.
Just one question, Bobby, on the city stickers.
Yeah.
I mean, you skipped that column for a reason,
Well,
I presume.
Actually,
But it looks weird,
yeah.
month to month.
Yeah, it does. And actually, I didn't mean it. I wish we had the sales tax in adjacent columns here.
I understand.
We might need to fix that. I don't know of any variable on, city stickers. The check we get from the county clerk's office comes, twice a month. I'd have to make sure we're not, missing a payment in here or something. I don't really know, but I don't think there's any reason to think over the course of the year that city sticker revenues will be, materially up or down from the prior year. We didn't budget for them to be, so, and I wouldn't expect them to be, but we can look further into that.
Do you
So.
normally see this variability between months for previous years?
No, I don't think so, other than there could, somewhere in all of these numbers, there could be a timing difference, because we get the checks from the county twice a month, and, it's not always on the same day, and we've got to receipt them and get them posted. That would be the only thing that I would suggest could be, but I'll look into that a little bit further, just to make sure there's not
People
something.
were trading cars because they were getting more for it than they have in a long time, and now prices have dropped back down. That could be part of it too.
Well, that's a good point, could
Yeah.
very well could be, I
There's
hadn't thought
not a lot
about
of
that,
new
yeah.
coming out.
Yeah.
Like certain new cars,
Yeah.
they can't even get them on the lot. There's kind of been a holdup with disbursement, so I wonder if that would.
It very well could be. I never thought about that way, but you may be right. Okay. So that's an update on our revenues. Okay.
Budget update?
Yeah, so, budget update, I didn't put the calendar in the packet.
We have
but
that.
Y'all have that. We're starting, and we're on track so far. How's that? But actually, this coming Friday, the capital request for next year, and kind of an update to our 5-year capital plan, all of those are due back in this coming Friday. It's a bit kind of a big day to get there. It takes a while because department heads have to not only determine what they want to ask for, what they need, but they have to get quotes and prices and that type of thing. So it's kind of an involved process. So they've had 3 weeks. This is the 3rd week. It's due on Friday. I sent out a friendly reminder last Friday, and we got several in this morning. So hopefully we'll get all of those in. I've been talking with the mayor and some others about some potential capital requests that are kind of not department specific, right? It wouldn't surface through our normal process. So our goal would be to pull that together and have that summarized just as quickly as we can. And at this meeting next month, we'll be reviewing that for the first time, I hope.
Are there any departments we're worried about?
Yeah, I was gonna say, any surprises
It-
that they'll,
That they,
I'll go through it before we get here. so.
yeah,
well, I'm thinking if I was a department, I don't think I would give the mayor a surprise.
Right.
you know.
yeah.
Well, sometimes they ask for, it's always the wish list, and we go through and I meet with every department head individually, and we talk about absolute need versus where can we go, so we can move it down the 5-year list. If it's what we need this year, we can move down and we can prioritize.
We could be like the county and have a wish list to double our pay.
Yeah, y'all can review that in 2 years. We have a salary review committee for that.
Okay, so, this group meets on March 19th is our next meeting, so I would expect by then that, we would have, summarized all the requests. The mayor probably would have had a look at them by then, and might be some adjustment, might not be where we end up at or where we
Yeah.
need to be, but it'll be pretty far along, and so we can talk about that on March the 19th.
That would be 11.
It would be, yep, normal time. So another pending step in the budget process, it's right around the corner, is March the 1st. We'll start kind of the staffing part of our budget, which involves, numbers of people, salary rates, benefits. It's the most challenging part of our budget, and we'll this year, we're gonna have to be doing it again on, you know, a gigantic Excel spreadsheet. However, we've done that, we're pretty good at doing it that way, but it's a lot of work. So we'll probably have some initial observations, I guess would be the best thing to say, about staffing requests, and kind of where we are at this meeting next month as well.
Isn't it the next week where we have the workshops?
It is tentatively scheduled for the 25th and the 26th of March. I don't know if
Yeah,
those are still good dates or
Yeah,
not.
yeah, I was want to wait for this meeting to talk and see where we are before I communicate with department heads
Yeah,
about those
exactly,
dates
yeah.
and the rest of the council.
And then, as we discussed at this meeting last month, because of our continued transition on the computer systems, it's really gonna kind of be April, before we've, are at a point where we can kind of, look, I guess, accurately at kind of this year's, non-salary and benefit operating expenses. But that whole process goes pretty quickly, actually. That's not the most challenging part of the budget, but then also, it's the state, you know, we wait on some guidance from the state each year about the state revenue projections. Even in a good year, it's often, later in April or even early in May, before we get those numbers. And I would anticipate this year with some of the revenue issues at the state level that I don't know, it may come quicker, they may know what they want to do, it may come later, I don't really know.
Yeah, I might guess probably same time, because good job if it's an election year also, so I'm
That's
sure
true.
the legislature will be ready to get out and get on the campaign trail.
Do you wait for, just out of curiosity, do you wait for the state's revenues kind of projection before you start building in the local?
Well, no, we kind of build it along the way, but those state shared revenues are such a big part
Help
of
us
it.
finalize it.
Yeah, before we
I'm
finalize
just
or
curious,
something.
how you know.
Yeah, like,
Because just looking ahead, I know we have half a dozen hotels coming online and
yeah,
more development. That's just,
seems to be.
What scares me about Bobby and what I love about Bobby is he does worst case scenario on both ends,
Yeah.
revenue and expenditures.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, we will already, we're kind of already building, like, you know, talking to the building department about, you know, their fees that they generate and that type of thing, and some of the local revenues. The other big part of the $40 million part of the revenue budget is property taxes. So, again, that's a process that kind of starts with the local assessor's office and makes its way up to the state assessor's office, and then finally makes it back down to us. So we know what, how many parcels and what the assessed values are, and so it's only then that we can kind of begin to compute the property tax revenue for next year. But, there's every reason to believe that number will grow as it has, you know, in recent years, so.
For staffing, do you expect it to be the same? Do you expect growth, shrinkage in the various departments?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that we have we've done some restructuring this year with some groundskeeping and athletics and for field maintenance, street department. And then we always have positions, open positions. We budget as we're gonna fully staff for 12 months, even though first responders are not ever fully staffed for a year, never fully staffed. And then, so there's some that won't have as many, but, you know, we're looking at, you know, salary adjustment because they're taking on more responsibilities as well. So kind of offsets theirs. I don't think anybody's asking for less employees, but some are probably saying the same. And just by just the sheer nature of restructuring, they won't need as many, but they are asking for salary increases for those employees that are taking on more responsibilities. And structure too. We have some departments that, because of the restructuring, realize there's been no structure, no hierarchical structure of the department, so.
Right. So this, I'm sorry.
Are we going to think about some more increases in police salaries?
We're gonna look at all of our employees, make sure we're taking care of all of them.
Because of the schedule this year being impacted a little bit by where we are on the computer implementation. I'm probably gonna try to, this year, to make another slight change. It's really not on here, but, the debt service fund is, a big part of our budget. And historically, it's kind of been prepared and looked at kind of at the same pace as the general fund and all the others. This year, if I can, I'm gonna try to go ahead and tie the debt service fund requirements anyway, down earlier than we normally do. So sometime in, I'm not sure we'll have that by March, but certainly by April, we'll probably have that. And, because this next year, our debt service requirements drop materially, so, it's a good thing. But, knowing what they are, and, that'll allow this group and the council to make a decision about, what portion of the tax dollars go there, so.
That's exciting. Anything else we need to bring before our budget committee? Mayor, anything? Is there a motion to,
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor, say aye? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Sort of hang out a little longer.
I know.